Hello guys, welcome to Mommy Chronicles with Thandeka. My name is Nokuthula. Today I'm going to share with you my journey with PCOS, which is polycystic ovaries. So basically, I first had my period when I was 11 years old, and I had a bit of information about puberty and the reproductive system from school. There were a couple of nurses that came and educated us about menstrual cycles and all of that. So I started my period a few weeks after that class took place at primary school. And then when I had my first period, I was playing on the street. Everything was fine. And then I felt wet. And then when I went to the toilet to check, I saw that I had started my period. So I went to the house, got my pad. And then after 3 days, I stopped. The period stopped. And then I remember us being told that the period will come back every month. And then for me, it was different because 2 months went by and I didn't have my period. So I was like, oh, maybe it's different with me. I'm not going to have periods. That was the first and last one. But a couple of months later, they came back. And then from then, it was just on and off for quite some time. So when I turned 20 years old in 2008, I went for my first doctor's appointment for my reproductive system because I was starting to have a lot of infections. So I went to the doctor for checkups. They did a sauna and some tests, and then the doctor told me that I had a hormonal imbalance. So she prescribed some medications, like she gave me antibiotics, some painkillers, and then she gave me a prescription and to go get at the pharmacy. Got to the pharmacy, got the prescription, and when I got home and read what the prescription was, it was actually contraceptives. So I was on the contraceptives for like since 2008, and then later in life, after I got married, I stopped taking the contraceptive because I was ready to start having kids. And it was difficult because I had a lot of pain in my abdominal area. I attended a lot of doctors. They kept telling me that I had infections. At one point, I was told that I had 2 cysts in my uterus, and then but luckily they said they caught them early. They were still they were not solid. They were gel. They were filled with gel. So they gave me some pills and suppositories, and they managed to dissolve the 2 cysts that I had. And then after that, I told them that we were trying to conceive with my husband, and then the journey of trying to get pregnant started. But the more tests that I did, I was told that I have polycystic ovaries, which is like my ovaries, when they mature, they form like they form a gel around the eggs. So instead of the eggs being released, they then just get stuck together and just becomes like cysts. So it was kind of difficult for me to fall pregnant, and I just kept having pains because there were times where I would get admitted to hospital for like chronic pains where I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand up straight. I would just have these episodes where my body would shut down, my belly would swell up, I'd start vomiting and sweating and feeling cold all at the same time. And then every time they just kept telling me that I have an infection, and I basically lived off antibiotics. Like every few months I'm on antibiotics and stuff. So they told me that I've got polycystic ovaries. And then when I asked that can it be treated, and then they said not really, it's something that I was born with. and it's the thing that's been causing me not to have regular periods and causing the hormonal imbalance and all of that. And it might make it difficult for me to have kids. And some doctors even told me that it's possible that I might not even have kids. So I went to different doctors trying to get second opinions and third opinions and all of that. I had tests. I had blood drawn a couple of times where they said they were checking, they called it day 21 progesterone, where they take blood on day 21 of your cycle, a week before your actual cycle. For me, which was difficult because my periods were not regular, so I couldn't tell on which day of the cycle I was in. So, but we did do those tests because it was a public hospital that did those tests. At some point, I had files going missing, so I constantly had to repeat certain tests, and it was very exhausting. It was mentally traumatizing. My body was just tired at most times because you go there's different doctors and so on. And then there was this other doctor that prescribed Clomid, and he had said that it will help my ovaries force ovulation. So he gave me those pills, and then he had said that if I don't fall pregnant, I must come back and get a double dose of those pills. So I went in, took the pills for 5 days, and we had to wait a couple of weeks, and nothing happened. I had to go back to the hospital to see the doctors again, and that doctor was not there, so it was a different doctor. So we had to start again because they had lost my files and all of that. But then the hospital decided that because they seem to not be able to help me, they decided to send me to a different hospital, which was in Witbank. When I got to Witbank, they did some tests also where they do the scan, they drew blood, and told me to come back after a few weeks. Came back after a few weeks with the results. They said that they can't find any fault. They don't understand why I'm not getting pregnant. And then Witbank sent me to Steve Biko Hospital in Pretoria, where also I got there. They told me I've got a classic case of PCOS. My cysts, I've got like my ovaries are surrounded with cysts. It's like they called it a string of pearls around inside my ovaries. So they told me that I can't be helped, and I would have to do IVF, and it's quite expensive. So then I decided to take a break from trying to conceive, and I just, because it was taxing. I think I spent about 2 years trying to conceive, going to different doctors and all of that. And then I started gym. I started donating blood. I just let go because I was starting to think that maybe my stress, my mental health was also affecting how my body is functioning at the time. And then we then went back to another doctor because there was another doctor that told me that I had to go in to go check if my tubes are not blocked. So they wrote me a letter to go do an HSG test. So when I went to the hospital, it was a private hospital. I had to pay a couple of rands, hundreds of rands, because medical aid didn't cover that procedure. So basically what they do on that test, they inject a dye into your uterus, and it goes up, and if your fallopian tubes are open, it continues to spill into the other side where the ovaries are situated. So when I got there, my ovaries were fine. So the doctor was like, no, your fallopian tubes are open, so they don't understand why I wasn't falling pregnant. They also discovered that I had a red retroverted uterus, where my uterus is not sitting in the normal position where it should be sitting towards the front. It's sitting towards facing the back, like, yeah. So after that, I had done those tests. So it was the day 21 progesterone, where they check if the ovaries are mature, do they get mature enough to be released for ovulation. And then they said everything looks fine. Then there was the HSG, where they checked the fallopian tubes, whether they open. So that was also fine. My husband also went for checks, where he was also told that his results come back fine. And then what else did we do? So we went to another gynecologist, and we came prepared. We had all our results with us, and when he was like, you have to go do these tests, and we were like, we already have all those tests. So we gave him, basically, we had like a file. We gave him the file, he went through it, and I told him that I've been on a couple of rounds of Clomid, like maybe 3 times with the 5 dose, and it never worked. And one of the doctors had said that I should go on a double dose. So that guy told me that he's gonna prescribe me the double dose. He gave me the double dose prescription, and then he also suggested that I go buy there's these sachets, they called folic sachets. It's like you get them in a box of 30 days, and then he said that I should buy 2 of them and take 2 sachets a day instead of 1. And it was supposed to be like a treatment for about 6 months. And then it was January. I took them for the whole of January, and when they finished, I started feeling sick and in pain a lot in my abdomen again, and I took a pregnancy test, and it was positive. I couldn't believe it. And then, but my pregnancy was not very easy, because I had then what they call hyperemesis gravidarum, where I vomit a lot. Like, I vomit every single day, every single time. I couldn't eat. I couldn't stand the smell of food. I can't stand being in the kitchen where there's different smells of food or any other thing. So I vomited basically throughout my pregnancy. And when it came time to give birth, I was vomiting actually also while giving birth. I was like, this thing, because the doctor had said that maybe I'm gonna suffer maybe for the first 3 months, and then maybe it's gonna stop. If it's worst case scenario, it's gonna stop maybe towards my 7th month into the pregnancy. But that never happened, because I vomited throughout my pregnancy. So yeah, that's what happened. And I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She was 3.5, and it was awesome. And the vomiting stopped immediately after I gave birth to my daughter. The smells, the nausea, the vomiting stopped. And I remember they changed my gown like 3 times in the delivery room, because I was vomiting so much. But yeah, basically that's my story with polycystic ovaries. And I was also told by the doctor that after I give birth, after I conceived my first child, my second child, I wouldn't struggle so much with my second child. It would probably be spontaneous. I didn't believe him. I was like, dude, I suffered for so long. But 2 years after giving birth, I breastfed my baby for 2 years and 2 months, and when I stopped breastfeeding, I fell pregnant again. So yeah, that's my journey with polycystic ovaries, and I believe that God's timing is never wrong. Maybe I was rushing to have kids at the time. Maybe it wasn't right for me, and then when the time was right, I finally got my present from God. Now I've got 2 daughters with polycystic ovaries. So thank you for watching. Tune in again, subscribe. Mommy Chronicles with Thandeka.